I compare myself to when I was a kid. Like I still feel the same traits. Like those memories stand out to me, what I did to try to make money as a kid. And it's funny how it just like they still stand out. And I'm like, man, I can't believe I was like doing this when I was younger, the same way I'm doing it now. Like just imagine if I just stayed that course, like where I could be now.
Welcome to the Outwitting Statistics in Search of a Better Business podcast. Are you aware that nearly 19% of all entrepreneurs fail within their first year of business? By year 5, nearly 50% have faltered, and at year 10, nearly 65% of all businesses will have failed needlessly. My name is Craig Bond. I am the CEO and owner of Elite Results Marketing, and on our podcast, we are going to interview highly successful entrepreneurs that have generated multiple 6 figures, if not 7 figures and beyond. We're going to unpack their habits, their mindsets, their strategies that have allowed them to beat these statistics and against all odds, create a highly successful business. So sit back, relax, get ready to learn, and enjoy today's episode. Welcome back to another episode of Outwitting Statistics in Search of a Better Business. Today, we have the other side of GCS Glass and Mirror. Mr. Brandon Nicastro is going to join us and talk about tips, tricks, and hacks that he has for being successful in business. I'm going to turn it over to him and let him tell you just a little bit about himself, and then we'll start jumping into the questions.
How's it going, Craig? So I'm Brandon Nicastro, founder and CEO of GCS Glass and Mirror. We founded the company back in 2013, and we do custom shower doors, mirrors, wine cellars, glass railings, and office partitions. And we've grown GCS since then to 5 locations nationwide.
Excellent. You want to share with them that you've had a couple of recent awards, maybe?
So we 2021 and 2022, we made the Inc. 5000 fastest growing private companies list. So that was a pretty big award for us reaching that. It definitely helps with motivating our team and all that stuff. Seeing those type of awards to be able to kind of keep expanding and keep morale up.
Seems like a pretty big milestone to cross and accomplish. I hope one day our company can cross a milestone like that. So I'm kind of jealous. So for anybody that's not listened to the show before, the premise of the show is around the fact that so many business owners start a company and within the first 5 years fail. I don't think that has to be the case. The longer that I've been in business and been exposed to other business owners, I find that there are commonalities and trends in thought processes and ways they operate. And then there's also unique perspectives that are brought to the table, which has helped Elite grow quite significantly. And so our goal today is to uncover what it is that's allowed Brandon and his company to grow so rapidly. You know, you're at 5 locations now, and I think you're planning to expand into a couple more this year, if not many multiples more.
Right.
And so let's start with understanding you as a kid. Did you anticipate being an entrepreneur? Was that like something that was on your horizon from the get-go, or how'd that shape up?
You know, as a kid, as I look back now, I feel like I was an entrepreneur at a young age. I did a lot of things when I was a kid, took it upon myself to go, pull weeds or mow lawns or sell candy to other kids at school for their, for more money and try to sell and make money as a kid. But, I just got into a habit of just working hard. And I kind of got away from that as I got a little bit older and started, working my first job and all that. Just always put my head down and grinded and stuff like that. But like I said, definitely looking back at it now, I was definitely an entrepreneur as a kid. And I compare myself to when I was a kid. Like I still feel the same traits. Like those memories stand out to me, what I did to try to make money as a kid. And it's funny how it just like they still stand out. And I'm like, man, I can't believe I was like doing this when I was younger, the same way I'm doing it now. Like, just imagine if I just stayed that course, like where I could be now.
Do you think that there was a clear path to what it is that you chose to do based off of your experiences as a kid, or were there any other avenues that you tried first before you came along and started GCS?
Yeah, so I had a few just basic jobs. Subway sandwich artist was my first job. Telemarketing, bike shop, stuff like that, and then I got into the glass world. Glazing isn't something that, like, that's what you wanna do. You're gonna graduate, you're gonna go to school, and then you're gonna become a glazer, you're gonna start installing shower doors. Like, usually, anyone who's in the glass business has been it's from a referral or you grew up in the business, and I didn't grow up in the business, but my best friend's stepdad worked in the business for a long time and offered me a job, moved to California from Arizona to live with them and get me a really good job doing, glass work, and kinda that's the avenue I went down. At that time, I never thought about having my own company. I just, I was just in work as hard as I can, try to make as much money as I can at a young age and just keep, I was just living my life back then and never really thought about that entrepreneur spirit. So
Do you think this friend's dad ended up being well, first of all, when did you first come across him out of curiosity?
So it was right when so I grew up with them. So he's been my best friend since fourth grade. And so I've known them for a long time. And then when I was 18, I didn't graduate high school. But when I was 18, I was working at a bike shop and they lived in California. And then that's when he's like, hey, if you move out here, I'll get you and Matt both a job doing commercial glazing where I work. And I'm like, oh, cool. Money sounded great. It was double what I was making at the bike shop. And so I just had to pack my stuff up and move to San Diego and try it out. And kind of just kind of went from there.
So was he actually the owner of the business or he just worked in the
He
business?
wasn't, so he just worked there. He was a project manager for the company. He later on, he went and opened his own business. I worked for him when he opened his own business, and then we kinda went our separate ways on that, and I bounced around a lot in the glass industry. I went from one job to another, learning a lot of different things from residential to commercial, a little bit of auto, kinda just windows and stuff like that, and honed in my skills from everywhere I went. Ultimately went back to that company I started with 2 different times, and then just kinda I kinda stuck with it, started a family, and got out of it a little bit to be I was gonna be a firefighter in San Diego, paramedic firefighter, and so kinda got out of glazing for 8 months or so, got became an EMT, and then ended up not wanting to take the pay cut, had a kid, another one on the way, and it was too long of a process to do what I wanted to do, and so I kinda went back into glazing.
Gotcha. So, still thinking in terms of your younger years, would you say that there were role models or figures around you that did own business that contributed to encouraging you to own your own business? Or how do you think that
Definitely.
transition from employee to entrepreneur came about?
You know, I don't really have, like, a definitive, like, this is how it happened. Definitely didn't have role models around me growing up. Single mom, raised 3 kids on her own, didn't really have that male figure, so I always gravitated to males, like, older males as, like, a father figure at growing up, but never really had that father figure that I can look up to, or anyone that I knew that really owned a business that I can look up to. I just learned from early on what I wanted in life, and, I was gonna work as hard as I can to get where I needed to be without failing, like a lot of people in my family did, and so I think I got the work ethic from my mom. She always worked hard, but other than that, like, we never ha like, we didn't really know anyone that owned businesses when I was growing up, that I knew of. She might have, but so none of that ever stood out. So I would say it just kinda came one day, I didn't know what an entrepreneur was until I was older. I didn't know what it meant or anything. So, like I said, doing the mowing the lawns, doing a little thing, trying to sell stuff at school, things like that. Like, that always intrigued me. Building something, like building that type of business, or like managing a checking account that we learned in school. Like, that type of stuff excited me, but I never put it to use as I got a little bit older until I eventually started my own company.
Did you see it as a game? Like you mentioned the checking account and the stuff that comes along with doing entrepreneurship. Like, did you see it as like a game to be played?
Yeah, at to a point, it is to me, it was kinda like a game. Like, it was just you're stacking money up, you're building stuff, you're putting it here, and you're able to build this, and then, like, that builds this and stuff like that, so it kinda was like a game, or you like, even in a video game like The Sims or something, you're building something, you're tearing it down, you're building something bigger and investing over here and doing that, so, like, it really was like a game.
Are you ever big into games? I'm just curious.
I was at a younger age. I was in the game. I played a lot of games.
I personally I personally never had a lot of video games in our household. It was always like at a friend's house or whatever. Whenever I would play them, that was kind of my mindset was like, how do I stack and build? I remember like one game on a Game Boy Color that I like saved up for and bought one year and ended up selling after 6 months. That there was some way to like play this game and then you could build this thing and then you could go back and play the game more. And I just like continuously did it. And it was just about like stacking it further and further and further. And every time I think back to that memory, I'm like, that was like a root in how I think or operate now in business.
Yeah,
Uh,
definitely.
with your transition or whatever from working for others to becoming an entrepreneur, were there anything that you would classify as failures? Obviously, you guys are quite successful at this point. Were there any classifications of failures? And if there were, is there anything that you could attribute to why that occurred?
Definitely doing jobs like underbidding jobs. Definitely failed a lot in that aspect, or time to get something done like on a bigger project, time management on that. And it was just a lack of experience on that end. Like as an installer, coming opening a business as an installer, I knew everything out the back door of the warehouse, right? I was able to go out there and I can install the shower, I can do all this stuff, but like, bidding jobs and knowing what you need to bid the jobs for to be able to be profitable, and then your time, what's your time worth and all that. So in the beginning, I definitely failed a lot doing that, and learned a lot doing that to be able to have a successful business.
What do you think was the tipping point that you're like, all right, I've been doing this for others. Now I'm going to go do it for myself? I know, like for me, there was just this incredible drive that I have to try this. Whenever I left Walmart, it wasn't because I had a bad job or was being mistreated. Realistically, it was just like, I'm going to hate myself if I don't do this. I'm curious if you have a similar experience or if it was just like, oh, there's more money to be had, or what was the tipping point for you?
I got to a point where I was working for a Fortune 500 company, running their backpack division, doing everything for that company, but they wouldn't promote me to a manager. They just had me as an installer. It wasn't in their budget. And it was funny because my best friend, who I originally got in the glass business with, we kind of went separate ways. And then we kind of started talking again. And he was like, "Hey, let me sell some shower doors for you. If you can get glass and do them, like I'll find some shower doors and we can I can sell them for you and you can install them." I'm like, "Okay, cool." So I did a couple of them, and I'm like, "Man," and then like he kind of brought it up to me like, "Hey, like start your own business and do this, like you can do it." And then like I started really thinking like, "Man, I can do this a little bit after work. What could I do? What kind of damage could I do if it was like full time?" And it was hard for me to leave a steady job, especially a Fortune 500 job. Like I had a good job. I mean, I wasn't making great money, but I was making decent money as an installer. But I definitely wanted more, and I wanted a better life for my kids. So that's when I took that hurdle and kind of went out on my own, but with nothing. Like started literally with no money in the bank account. Just knew like if I take the drive that I have for someone else's company and just put it in my own, I can be successful. And just kind of did that.
You already had kids. You said you didn't have a lot of money saved away or stacked up. How scary was that for you? And if there's anybody listening that's considering going out on their own and starting their own venture, like what would you say to them? Would you have done things differently? Was there any planning that went into it before you made the jump?
I feel like sometimes you just got to jump. And I have a big thing where I always say you always got to just put one foot in front of the other and just keep moving. It was really scary for me because I did have kids. I had two kids, but I was divorced and paying spousal support and child support at the time, and it was half my net check. So I literally didn't have any money to live, and my biggest concern was not the car payment or the phone bill or anything like that. It was I can't miss a child support payment. Like, I don't want to be that guy that misses a child support payment. I'm always going to court. Like, I don't want to end up in jail. So I always made sure I had money to pay that child support payment. So that was like my biggest concern stepping out on my own. I had a girlfriend at the time. I was living with her and her parents, and we had one room. Didn't even have room in the garage to start anything. Started it out of my truck and on the side of the house, and kind of just said, "Hey, I'm just gonna go. I'm just gonna go for it. I'm gonna get my license. I'm gonna do it." And she had a really good job at the time, so my backup plan was I literally called two glass companies 2 weeks before I left and asked if they were hiring, and that was my backup plan was, well, I can always go back to installing if I need to. There's a couple companies that are hiring. I can probably get a job with them, and you know, so I kind of filled that out and just kind of jumped head in and went for it and never had to look back.
Having the backup plan is always nice. I definitely didn't leave my job with Walmart on bad terms. And in fact, I had to call them. You referred me Nick, and I was talking through some things with him about like transferring like my 401k or
Uh-huh.
whatever. I called to do that, and apparently Walmart still classified that I worked for them. So I ended up having to call my old boss to like get that rectified. And he's like, "Well, you apparently still work here, so like come on in." It's like it's nice to know that I left on good terms and still had that as an option if it really came down to it.
Yeah.
Okay, so you jumped in. There was a lot going on there from a strategy perspective. Like you knew you understood the back end. Sounded like you had maybe a friend that could help with sales. Was there any other planning that went into that, or was it just like I got to start knocking doors and
Yeah.
making phone calls? Or
So I went out and got an accountant first thing. That was the first thing I said. I'm gonna make sure I'm not gonna get caught up in this tax game and all this stuff. So I went out and got an accountant, and I met a contractor that I did labor only on his stuff. So like he'd buy the glass, and I would just install it for him. But he did a lot of glass, a lot of bathroom models and stuff. So that kind of kept me busy. I would hang and then I would do repairs. We don't do any repairs now unless it's our own stuff, but I would do repairs back then to kind of, keep revenue coming in and stuff like that. And I'd hang like they'd see us with a laser and we're installing glass and we have a laser and like, oh, that's cool. Like we'd hang mirror frames, and they would be like, "Oh, I got some picture frames. Can you hang those?" Like, so I was hanging picture frames for people when they asked, for extra money and stuff like that, and doing what I can do just to kind of keep cash flow coming in. But every day I would cold call contractors at the end of the day. So I'd go work my day, I'd get back home, and I'd build a list, and I would call those. I'd get on Houzz or whatever. And I would call those customers. I would advertise on Craigslist. This is when Craigslist was like the place to go to advertise. So I'd advertise on Craigslist for shower doors or glass work, and, you know, try to pick up jobs that way. If I'm driving to a job and I see a open job site with a house being framed or something, I'd stop there, hand business cards out, talk to whoever I can talk to, and kind of built that. And that actually built a great foundation for us now is the contractor base that we have. So
how long ago was this?
this was 2013. So like into 2013, beginning of 2014.
Okay, so it's not been like yesterday.
No.
So you've not accumulated all this success like overnight. I have this hunch, and I actually kind of discussed this with the last guest that came on the podcast, that I think a lot of businesses actually fail not because they had to, but because maybe they were just looking for some instant gratification, thought that it was going to be like an overnight success. I've personally looked around, and it does seem like a lot of people present like that's the case. Like, oh yeah, we just blew up overnight. What are your thoughts on that? And there's apparently a long journey that's transpired here for you to go from, living with your girlfriend's parents, doing this on the side out of your truck, to now being featured in magazines and on TV and all kinds of other places.
It's definitely a journey, and it excuse me. It doesn't happen overnight. That's for sure. It's kind of like, have you ever seen that clip of the iceberg, and it's like the majority of it's underwater, but
Mhm.
the majority of the people only see the top of it, right? They don't see everything that goes into that. So it's that overnight success story but it's like, I've been here doing this for 10 years. Like I'm just now being recognized, but we've been doing this for a long time. So it's all part of the journey. But I feel like we've had a lot of successful years in this short period of time. So we're able to get that gratification, but just keep wanting more. And when I started it, it turned into like this was going to be a good career, right? I can install shower doors and do this, and then In the beginning, it wasn't, I didn't never thought about having multiple locations. I thought about I can have a nice glass shop and, I can make a decent living and all this. And then it got to a point where that I guess it was being an entrepreneur. I started thinking more and more like, wow, we can do this, or you can do this, or, you get the shiny object over here and you're thinking about this, and just trying to bring everything in together and just staying focused and building that and following that journey. But there is a big statistic on the first 5 years, businesses do fail. I think it's like, I want to say it's in the 90% or something like that. Is it that high?
It's pretty high. I don't have the exact statistic. I don't want to misquote it, but it's pretty significant
And then
number
like,
of businesses that drop off.
yeah, it's like the first 5 years, it's a pretty high statistic of businesses failing. And then the remainder of that, the next 5 years, there's like a good percentage that fall off of that as well.
It's an unfortunate fact, and obviously there's different types. I also heard a recent statistic about franchises. They statistically have a 2% failure rate
Yep.
in the first 5 years, which just goes to prove that it has to be the systems, the processes, the mindsets that are already fleshed out and achieved, rather than if you're starting something yourself, you're kind of figuring that out.
Yeah.
And yet, from my perspective or my philosophy, and I want to hear your perspective as well. What that's indicating to me is that I just need to go find successful business owners and spend time understanding how and why they're successful. Hence the podcast. What are your thoughts on that? Do you think it? Do you think people have to fail, or it's just a limitation on like knowledge, network, understanding, persistence?
I really think it comes down to, obviously, your network, who you know. It's not about what you know all the time, it's about who you know, obviously. Like, I really believe in that, and persistence to just keep driving forward. Like, for me, a lot of people have coaches. I have a coach, but he's not like and you've talked to him. He's not like a normal a normal coach that would coach me up. It's a different type of coach, but like, I think you got to be self motivated to keep moving forward. You can't just depend on someone else to motivate you.
Right.
So for me, I take it as more of a challenge on I'm going to do it myself. And I could probably be way further along if I paid a coach, or, talk to a lot more people. But I literally just get in this mode where I'm just going to grind and keep doing it and try to be as disciplined as possible when I do something. And eventually it'll pay off. And I read a lot. I do listen to podcasts, I listen to audiobooks and stuff like that. So I take a lot of stuff out of there that I can do different in GCS to make it better. But I think a lot of it is just being dedicated to what you want, trying to figure out the main goal. Like, what is your vision on how do you want to live your life? What do you want for your family? What do you want for yourself? And just kind of get out there and go after it. So for us, like, taking care of the customer. Like, that's our number one priority, is taking care of the customer. We're not chasing the money, because I feel like when you chase the money, you get you get caught down this rabbit hole where it's always the next job, it's the next job, and you're just chasing money and you never have any money. But if you just focus on taking care of the customer, one customer at a time, the money's a byproduct and you get paid to do what you do to take care of the customer. I know I rambled on a little bit, but
No, not at all. I think that's another like shared trait or attribute that I've noticed amongst the successful business owners that have had the opportunity to spend time around is their focus is on being the best at what they do, taking care of their customer. That's where their focus goes to. It's not ever just the money. Because if it was just the money, invariably you may not take care of your customer, in my
right,
perspective. And if you don't take care of your customer, it's not long before your reputation's just not very good, right?
exactly.
So I think that's a very key operating principle. Are there any others that you feel like, regardless of the industry you're in, they've helped you be successful, or are guiding philosophies or principles that GCS follows that has helped it grow the way it has?
I mean, there's a couple people I follow and stuff that they're not really business people, but they definitely just kind of keep me focused on hearing what they're doing, keeping me focused on what I do to be the better person, like Cameron Haynes or David Goggins or something like that. but not really like it's weird. It's weird to say this because I don't follow a lot of people. Like, I do follow a lot of people on social media and stuff like that, but I don't really pay attention to a lot of their stuff. I see stuff here and there that I'll get clips of and little nuggets here and there, but I kind of feel like running a business and being an entrepreneur, there's a lot of common sense involved. And if you have common sense and you're able and street smarts, I really feel like book smarts can be taught, but like street smarts, like you either have it or you don't have it. And I feel like a big thing with a business, a successful business, is being street smart for the most part. I mean, obviously there's companies out there that, but I think just I think that's helped me a lot is just being street smart and coming up from where I came up. Like I wouldn't change it for the world the way I came up. I had friends that came up, that got anything they wanted and I had to fight for it, or getting Christmas presents from the fire department because we couldn't afford Christmas presents and stuff like that. So I've been there. So I know what I want in life and I know what I want for my kids, and nothing's going to hold me back from going out there and achieving what I want.
So you've got a drive due to your background or something to fall back on as far as like motivation to keep moving forward. Is that what
Yeah.
I'm hearing?
It's kind of like if anyone's ever listened to like David Goggins' book, his first one, he talks about going into the cookie jar
Mhm.
with like old memories. Just whenever times are tough, you go in the cookie jar, and it's kind of like that. And I don't sit there and reminisce on the old times. I just know where I came from, and I know I shouldn't be here. I don't deserve what I have, so I work hard every day to keep what I have and to keep trying to get, what I want.
So, not everybody I get to interview has partners. I'm kind of curious because I think partnerships can go two ways, and there's two primary partnerships for an entrepreneur that are important. The first one is probably your spouse. So, I'm curious about your relationship with your spouse, how you handle that, manage that as an entrepreneur. I know that can be challenging. And then the second one is having a business partner and what your thoughts are around making that successful, and say the word successful, making it so that there's not a lot of friction, I guess is what I'm getting at. What are your thoughts
I
on
would
that?
say having partners is tough. It takes a lot of trust, and for me, coming from where I came from, I've been burned a lot, so I didn't have a lot of trust. So, it takes a lot of trust, and it's gotta be the right person. Like, I feel like if it's 2 of the same people, it's gonna be really hard to run a business together. But if you have the traits of one thing and they have the traits of another thing, and you're able to kind of use those to your advantage to get where you want to go, you guys can have the same vision on where you want to go, but different paths. So if you're able to kind of combine those two, it can be really powerful. And I think that's what's helped me in my partnership. I have multiple partners in different locations and stuff.
Yeah.
So when I started, I didn't have any partners. I wanted partners in the beginning. I asked a few friends of mine to be partners. I actually asked my general manager who works for me now in Phoenix if he wanted to go into business with me, and he said no. And now he's the general manager of my store because I was scared to do it by myself. But I'm glad I did it by myself and got the experience and went through the hard times by myself. But now going forward, I feel like I would want a partner going forward because I feel like you can do way more with a partner once you know what you want.
So look for somebody that has complementary skill sets, has similar vision and drive. And this almost pairs up with like my philosophy on the spousal partner is everybody's like, "Well, you're my other half or whatever." And me and my wife have always discussed like, no, you're not my other half. We're two whole people. We come together and make a great team as opposed to being like half-sided people and being completely dependent on each other. And that's kind of what I'm hearing you say in your partnership is like you're looking for somebody that could come in and complement what you do, not like be dependent on, which I think could cause friction down the road.
Exactly. Yeah. So, and I feel like from the stories that I've heard in a lot of small businesses, like a lot of people don't have a plan. Like there's no like structure. They just kind of just this person's going to do this person's going to do this, and they kind of do their own thing or whatever. But like as long I feel like with any partner, like you got to have a plan as this partner is in control of this. This partner's in control of this. You can only have one CEO. You can't have two CEOs of the same company, obviously. So there's got to be the give and the take in the partnership on who does what and everything, and and just respect each other for. I mean, who you spend a lot of time with trying to grow something. So you got to be able to, get along with that person. I see a lot of people that definitely fight in partnerships and stuff like that. So as far as like my wife, I wouldn't be here without her support. She's been amazing. So she's been able to hold it down for our family. I have 2 kids with her, so I have 4 kids total. So being able to hold everything else down and kind of let me do what I'm trying to do to help build a future for our family has been, I mean, I couldn't ask for more. So she plays a big role.
Say that again.
I was gonna say she plays a big role in it all. So
I think they have to. Like I don't think that I could have run my business at all. First of all, my wife and my daughter are so much of a driver or motivator. I don't know if I would have started a business if it wasn't for them to begin with. And then the second part of it, thinking about when I first got started, my wife wasn't really on board and we didn't go anywhere. Like I was still putting in the same measure of energy, I think, maybe even more. And it wasn't until she was like, you know what, I think we can do this and I'm behind you. I fully support you. That's when everything kind of like took off and started working. So I fully agree with that. When Chance came on, he brought an interesting perspective where I asked him, what do you do to create like a work life balance or make sure that your family's getting the appropriate amount of time and stuff? And his comment was that he thinks it's a toxic idea to say balance because that puts a perspective of like, oh, there's this perfect teeter totter seesaw and there's like a perfect amount that you can put in so that it's level all the time. What are your thoughts and what are your like strategies for making sure you're putting the appropriate amount of energy and time into each one of those buckets?
I mean, I wouldn't necessarily say like I believe in balance, like you're saying, like find that happy medium. I do believe in the term of work life balance, trying to figure out that. But I've been really good with just from the beginning, I'm only going to work Monday through Friday. I'm not going to work on the weekends unless I want to work on the weekends, but it's always been that way. So that's my family time. And and then it's gotten even more now. So like I work from home, so I'm able to take breaks and hang out with the kids and kind of do things with the family and stuff like that. So it's a huge part to be able to, because I mean, I'm a workaholic, so I can literally work all day long and just bypass everything and just keep working. But I feel like having some sort of balance in your life helps you, keeps you motivated to, because if you're just working and working and working, what are you really working for if you're not spending any time? Like you can say, oh, I'm doing it for my family, but like if you're not spending any time with your family, are you really doing it for your family, or are you just, is that what you do? You're just working the work and work your life away. So I'm really big on spending family time. I I'm able to just shut it off. I can literally just shut work off with the snap of my fingers and not have to think about it until the next day because there's always the next day. So
How do you do that?
I don't I don't know. My wife said, she always says, she's like, I don't know how you do that, but it's a good trait to have for sure. It's just like sleep. I get my sleep when I need my sleep. I've never let one job keep me up at night. I don't sit there and wake up in the middle of the night thinking about a job or anything. Like I go to sleep, wake up and do my thing. Like it just never let that type of stuff bother me. Cause I look at it as there's always tomorrow. Like there's always tomorrow, like for work, unless you're not here anymore, then you don't have to worry about it anyway. So, but there's always another day to fix something or take care of it.
I'm super jealous right now. I wish I could adopt that. There's so many times that I like know there's something wrong or a fire, and there's not even anything you can do about it. It's like there's nothing to be done until tomorrow, and it will just bother the heck out of me, and I'll have trouble sleeping. It's okay. I've got a question then, just to see if there's a correlation. I cannot have notifications on my phone. If there's a notification, I've got to go clear it. Do you do that or not?
You would have anxiety if you looked at my phone.
So it does not bother you to see the notifications and you can ignore them until it's time.
It does not. Oh, my phone's on focus mode, so you don't see it right now. So there's no notifications. But I probably have 70 text messages right now and like 150,000 emails because I didn't delete a lot of my old ones. So
We started the week and I probably had like, I don't know, 20 notifications on my phone. My wife came in, she's like, how's your day going? And I'm like, look at my phone. And she goes, It's a bad day, isn't it? If I haven't had time to clear the notifications, there's a problem. So that's interesting that, man, I really want to dig into that. How it just doesn't bother you. Your
It-
thought, or what is the thought process on it? Because mine is like, well, what if it needs an immediate attention? And if I don't take care of that now,
so
maybe I'm
that makes
holding somebody else up. Or
so that makes sense why when I text you yesterday when I was at dinner,
I called you
and you
immediately. I
called me
wanted to
right
fix
away.
it for you.
What do we got to
Yeah.
do to fix this? Like, so like something like that, like for me, if that happened to me, I would either look at it and be like, I'll respond to them tomorrow. Or it just wouldn't like, it doesn't trigger me. It doesn't, unless it's like, unless it's something that I really feel that I need to take care of. But usually I'll delegate some of that stuff. So like I'll see something like that and I'll be like, I'll text my manager his computer so it doesn't bother him. I'll text his computer because I know he'll get it in the morning. I'm like, hey, blah, 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 blah. I'll screenshot it and send it over. I'm like, can you take care of this first thing in the morning and get it done? And then I'm done with it. Like, then it's off my plate. I don't have to worry about it anymore. And I'll do something like that. But I don't know what it is. I just don't let it bother me. I can just shut it off and ignore. And which is, I would say I don't know if it's necessarily a good trait to have because there's times where I'll be like, I'm not worried about it right now. I'll get back to them tomorrow. And then I'll forget. I don't make a note and I'll forget to get back to them. And it's like 3 days later. I'm like, I read this shit. I totally spaced it. Now I look like an idiot. So,
That's what drives me, I think. Like if we dig into why I am that way or obsessive about clear notifications or responding, is that fear of forgetting. I feel like I'm constantly operating on there's a bazillion things I'm trying to work on or take care of. And if I don't like address that thing right now, or at least go put it, like we use a project management system, at least put it in there, or assign it to somebody to be taken care of, I'm like, gotta get lost. Like everything that we do, like even on the weekends, I'm like, wife, if we're going to a birthday party or we're supposed to be going to dinner with friends or what, it goes on the calendar because I know I will miss it. There's just
so,
too many things
so I
going on
do
always.
the important stuff for sure. I have a running list of daily tasks on my notes on my phone. So if it's something that I need to make sure I get back to an email or something like that, I'll put it in my notes. And then every day I go through my notes and try to check off all my tasks. And if I don't check it off, I'll go back the next day and go to those tasks and finish them up, or I'll move them to the next day. So I do stay on top of it that way. I do utilize my calendar as much as I could. I can definitely be better utilizing my calendar. But I mean, the first 2 years in business, I never utilized any of that stuff. Like I literally had a notepad to draw up showers and order them. And I never used a Google Calendar for the first 2 years. And I did $500,000 in revenue. And I remembered everything in my head. Like, and then because I have a really good memory, but it got to a point where it's like, whoa, this is too much. I need to start scheduling stuff because I'm forgetting appointments and stuff like that. And so, yeah, but the notifications, they don't bother me. I think because I've lived with them so long that it just doesn't, it to me, when I look at it and I'm like, there's no notification, like, wow, that's weird.
Interesting. Okay, so we were kind of talking about balance before we hopped into that rabbit hole there. Talk to me about self-care. I know that you get up like super early. You're always working out. I see your Facebook stories. You're out running in the mountains and stuff. Tell me about how that goes into your day and how you see that being either helpful to your mental outlook or if it has anything to do with business or what's
Um,
that about?
I've never I've never been like that. I've always like I said, I've always just worked and kind of worked and didn't I took care of myself, but I didn't take care of myself a lot. I was working, but as soon as I started like sitting down at a desk a lot, working that way, I realized like, man, I'm out of shape. I got to do something and I started doing it and then when I do something, it's not like I'm going to just like try this. I'm going to go all in 110% with what I do, whether it's hunting, golfing, whatever it is, I'm going to give it my all. Well, for example, I quit drinking caffeine 6 years ago. And it wasn't like I'm going to just quit drinking Red Bulls. It was like no caffeine for 6 years, haven't had caffeine and it's like and that's how and that's just how I am. So like going into self-care, I get up at 3:30 in the morning, go to the gym try to be at the gym at 4. And there's just something about being up and done with workout before people even wake up, and then to be able to kind of go on with your day. And what it does for me is like it just clears my head. Like if I don't go to the gym, if I skip the gym, I don't know if you like the feeling of like, I don't know how to explain it. Like if you, when you're working for someone and you call in sick and you're not sick and you, because you're
Mhm.
tired, and you wake up a couple hours later after your day started and you're like, you just have a, I would have a weird feeling that like I should be at work right now. Like I should have just went to work. I literally slept for 2 more hours. I'm not even sick. I should have just went to work. So you, or like
Yep.
you miss school and you feel that way. Like, so when I don't go to the gym or run, that's how I feel. I feel like I just skipped something that I wasn't supposed to skip, and it jacks up my whole day. And so now like it's it's literally Monday, I 7 days a week if I can, like I try to go every day. So at least I get to sleep in a little bit on Saturday and Sunday because it doesn't open till 5. So but I try to do that, and the workout is good for me, but the run I think is what's even better for me. What clears my head is that run. The endorphins I get from running after I'm done. I hate running. Like I don't like to run. Like, but I love to run, if that makes sense. Just I love the after feeling, and I love the feeling of like running at 5 o'clock in the morning. It's pitch black and people are driving by and they're looking at me like, what the hell is this guy doing out here running? Like, but like it just motivates me more, like, to get it done, so and it's one of those things where it's a competition with myself. It's it's like building a business. What I'm just building my body the way I wanna build my body, and I've said it before, it's like, it's just me versus me out there, like, there's no one out there, there's no one pushing me. It's me just discipline.
Would others consider you highly competitive?
Yes, really competitive. Like, I'm so competitive that there's certain things I won't even do if I'm not that good at because I don't wanna look like an idiot.
That sounds like my wife all day. I cannot get her to try new things because she's like, well, if I'm bad at it, like she just hates whenever she's not immediately good at something.
That's why like,
Luckily, she's really good at a lot of things.
I'm naturally not a good speaker. Like, I'm not really good at face to camera, social media, stuff like that. Like, I have to get out of my element to do it, and I don't do it a lot because I'm not good at it. I'm too competitive to, like, have this crappy page because I'm not good at it. So, I used to ride.
Little secret. You're not good at it because you haven't done it enough. If you would do it more, you would get good at it.
For
That's all,
sure.
man.
For sure. So, like, little backstory is I used to ride freestyle BMX, the local pro here in
Okay.
Arizona. Used to do flips and all that stuff. But like, so I'd go to the park and I would ride. And then as soon as like someone that I knew, someone that was like someone that I didn't really know showed up and was riding and they were really good, that I felt like they were on my level or better, I would shut down and I wouldn't really ride that much anymore. I just sit there and watch and hang out because like I felt like then there was like competition and I've already done like what I can do. So I'd kind of shut down a little bit, which is, I don't know why, but it's always been like that with competition. So if I wasn't good enough, like I have to be the best at what I do. And I'm not saying I'm the best in business, but I treat it as I'm the best, and I think that's what helps make me successful in business.
Presumably, you were a younger adult at the point you were riding. If you're still doing it, man. Kudos to you. That sounds little sketch. I've got a knee injury. I don't think I would get out on a bike at this point like I used to. But it was during your younger years.
Yeah, so probably like I would say like 15 on, and then I mean I did it. I mean when I got divorced and moved back, I mean I was riding when I started my company in 2013. So I took a break, started riding again, and I took a big fall and rolled my ankle really, really bad. And the next day I had to go to work and install this huge piece of glass and I'm like, can't even walk. And I'm like, well, this sucks because I can't call in because I'm the owner. Like I got to get it done. So that's
Right.
when I kind of stopped riding. I still have my bike, but that's when I pretty
I'm
much
curious with what you mentioned about if somebody else showed up and it almost sounds like maybe they were kind of outdoing you. Is that what you
yeah.
were explaining? Is they're kind of outdoing you?
Hmm.
So, being that you're an older, more mature Brandon now, curious if somebody rolled up in your area in Phoenix with a glass company and was just like kicking ass and taking names, what would be your approach now? It surely, I've known you long enough. I can't really believe it would be to shut down and let them take over.
No, I'm
So
probably
I'm
gonna
curious.
now I would probably just, just go even harder and just
No,
like show them.
fair enough. Fair enough.
It's funny how you learn that type of stuff as you get older, like how things change.
Man, so many things change. Like one of the main reasons I tried to get out of Walmart was to just like avoid being a manager of people or having to do leadership of any kind. And I've had to grow into that. I also didn't really care for speaking or doing anything auditory, not getting in front of the camera or whatever. I've had to learn to just like push myself into those things and keep pushing myself to do those things until I get to a measure of comfort or a measure of, can't think of the right word. Like you get okay at it. You get competent at it. You
Right.
can achieve what you need to achieve with it. So yeah, it all changes. Out of curiosity, with your business, what are like key KPIs or milestones or team growth objectives that you look at? Again, one of the biggest commonalities I see with successful business owners are around their planning or understanding the data and the numbers. From what I know of you, you strike me as a very data driven kind of person. So I'm curious what it is you look for to measure your success.
It's funny because we just talked about this on a call last night on a glass call about KPIs and stuff like that. We track like everything from, and like the big ones are like revenue, like per vehicle, per installer. What's the revenue? Because we know at a certain revenue, we're hitting certain margins. So we know where we need to be at certain revenue. We track that. And then we track like go backs. What are the go backs? How many go backs? And try to find patterns and stuff where we can get better. Another key one would be like tracking guys. So I get a monthly report of every employee in the company from my general manager that tells me all these KPIs that we've tracked throughout the month. So it's just a
Mhm.
breakdown of like how many times were they late, how many times they call in, how many go backs did they have, what their revenue was, what the cost of all the go backs was, any like key things that they did for the month that need good or bad that need to be brought up, how many five-star reviews did they get, and that type of stuff, what can be better and it's on every employee. So those are the main numbers I look at. It's like installations, and then like installations, how many installations for that revenue, so we kind of know, okay, well, this is our average and stuff like that.
So it's interesting. You actually break it down to the individual and the truck so you can see what each appendage of the company is generating and whether it's pulling its own weight.
Yeah, so that way I can go. So we do and then we did all this to be able to track and give quarterly bonuses to our guys. So now we're able to track it, and they get like all these KPIs essentially that are in this equal out to 100%. Like the revenue is like 40% of it. So if you hit the revenue, then you're going to get 40% of this bonus. If you don't call in and you don't show up late, you're going to get a 20% of that bonus. But if so you can fail some of these categories and still get a bonus, but you can hit them all and get a really good bonus, and then you can go over. So, and then that way we know, like when we go to do a performance review on someone, and this guy over here is like, "Hey, I want, more money or this," and it's like, well, this is what you did the last 2 quarters compared to what these guys are doing right here. Like you're way underperforming them. So this is where you need to be to kind of get where you want. So, and that was all the way. I mean, we've been wanting to do this for a long time, and we literally just built it out this year. We've been building all year long, trying to build the best way to track employees and these critical numbers.
It
So,
seems really, really smart because it's got built in both repercussions to not performing, makes it very simple to have that conversation like, yeah, you're really not doing what you need to do, and or the direct incentive to motivate them. It's like, yeah, you want to make more money? Here's how you do it. Like we
yeah.
gave you the way to do it. There's a clear way to earn more. I like that. We're busy working on something like that with our team where we have KPIs on getting a certain amount of tasks done in a timely manner and making sure we don't have like complaints from our customers, things like that. So I really like that idea.
And then like on top of all those numbers, I know like if we do so many installs, because I can look at it, we just need to do this many installs. We need to, because that's going to equal this amount of revenue, and then we're kind of at where we need to be. Anything extra is awesome. So we even track their driving score because we use an app that records everything with them driving for like harsh braking, fast acceleration, no seatbelt, speeding, stuff like that. So they have driver scores. So that's part of their performance bonus as well, like 10% or something like that. If they get over a 90%, they're going to get more because like we want to pay them more. We want to give them the bonus. It's up to them. Like it's extra on top of what they do for work, right? It's extra money for them. But also when they're consistent doing it all, it's a better employee. They make more money. The company should make more money because if they're getting over a 90% driving score, in the long run, you're saving on your brakes from harsh braking, you're saving on gas mileage. It's little things over a long period of time that save on the bottom line, which equal out to being able to pay people more money and the company growing.
It's interesting seeing the level of detail that, again, successful business owners like go through and think about. One of the first interviews we did was with a chiropractor that talked about he literally gets down on the ground or pretty close to the ground to see the perspective of how it would be for a child coming into his office because he wants the experience to be great at every level.
Huh.
And it's just amazing the level of detail I've seen entrepreneurs go to see that the small details add up to make a bigger, better product, service, what have you.
So my
So,
like
and it
it's
sounds
funny
like
because
that's what you guys are doing.
they give me a hard time in our meetings sometimes because like the word that I'm known for now is granular. Like I like to get super granular on what we do. So and the problem and I would say the downfall to that is like I get too granular. Like I think through something so much that I get stuck and I never put it out because it's so granular that I feel like I can't put it out because I'm stuck there's a roadblock and I can't figure out how to get past that roadblock to track something the correct way instead of just like letting it go a little bit. So that's like even on these reports we have, if the guys have to go to do a repair, it's not their repair. Well, they're losing out on that revenue of an install because they're doing someone else's repair, or if they're in the shop fabbing mirrors, or if they're going to pick up something. So we even like highlight those and we put those in the notes as well. So this person did all this too, and on top of these numbers, so we can actually see. And it literally paints a whole picture of that one employee for that whole month.
Love it. I love it. Wow, that went by really fast.
Right.
We're already at the top of an hour. Cool. So let's do a couple rapid fire questions and then I'll let you tell everybody how to find you guys. First one, you said you read a lot of books. What would be your book recommendations for anybody starting a business, doing the entrepreneurship thing that you feel like are vital?
The Richest Man in Babylon was a really good book. Extreme Ownership. I'm not really one like I like business books, but I also like those self-help motivation discipline type books too. So like both David Goggins books, Can't Hurt Me and Never Finished, both good books. I Love Capitalism, one of the founders of Home Depot and how that started. He has a pretty interesting story growing up in New York, like in the World War II era and on.
Yeah.
So, and then Systemology.
That was a good one. I appreciated you recommending that to me over a year ago now.
Yeah.
And it's helped put together our systems and processes that we follow today. So I appreciate that one.
There's a lot of good books. I have a lot on my shelf that I need to read. Scars and Stripes from Tim Kennedy is a really good one too of his life. It's a pretty awesome story of special forces and all that. But I don't read as much as I used to, but I still listen to audiobooks and I try to read a little. I went through a phase where I was reading too much. Like I'd go to the gym, listen to a book, then I'd get home, I'd go for a run, listen to a book, and then I'd get home, and then I would have a protein shake, and then I'd read a different book. So I try to read because I was acting like the audiobook wasn't enough. Like I still needed to read for the day because technically I'm not reading if I'm listening to a book. So I still wanted to read every day, and like I was going through like books left and right. Outliers is a pretty interesting book, but yeah.
What about people that you feel like are influential or have had an influence on your perspective in business or life in general? Have a good balance.
It's weird. I'm never good at answering these questions like that. I really don't have anyone. It's kind of weird. Like I really don't have like one specific person that I can just say like I try to model myself, like look at like any of that.
What about people you rely on,
My
or
partner,
types of people that you would look to rely on?
like my partners.
Yeah.
I mean, definitely Chance is super motivational. I can definitely, there's things that he does that I wish I can do that I try to get better at. So it's like it drives me. Yeah, I don't know, but it's weird. I don't have an answer.
You mentioned when you first started, you went out and got an accountant.
Hmm.
Are there, would you suggest that to everybody if you had it to do again? And were there any other, like, did you go get an attorney? Obviously, you have Nick now with the financial advisor stuff. Like,
So I did.
what are those?
I mean, I would definitely recommend an accountant just so you don't get caught up in any of that stuff. I mean, you still can. I switched from that accountant, went to a different accountant, and that accountant went to prison. So you can still get caught
Oh,
up in the wrong guy. But man, I didn't have like an attorney or a good team until I found Nick, and that was like 4 years ago. So I was 5 years in without anything. I had an accountant the whole time, but like it was literally just me and Nick kind of helped put a team together for me. New bank, new accountant, new bookkeeper, attorney, and kind of built that team around, and then that really helped me excel. So I definitely
so
recommend having
obviously,
that team.
so obviously, you don't have to have the team to get to certain checkpoints or whatever. Would you say that there's been a lot of change or a lot of alleviation of stress or whatever after acquiring the team?
Yeah, definitely. Because before that, and Nick can attest to it, that I would call him and say, I'm done. I need to sell this thing. I don't want to do it anymore. Like I'm so stressed out. Like it's just I'm over it. Like what can I get for my business? Like where do I sell this thing? Like can I put it on Craigslist? No. But after the fact, like it definitely like broadened this perspective and opened up my mind to be able to kind of help me think through on what do I really want and where am I going to be the best fit for the company, because I'm not going to be the best fit growing this company doing the day-to-day stuff. So it's going to grow, but it's not going to grow like I want it to grow. So I think that's a huge thing, is to be able to have that team around you, whether it be some kind of accountability coach. And like I said earlier about coaches, I'm not against coaches. I just think there's a lot of coaches that preach the same stuff. They're in this guy's in this coaching group and he learns from this guy and then he just regurgitates it a different way to this person and then this person thinks they can be a coach. And so I'm not against coaches. I think there's a lot of good coaches out there, and I think people need that. But I think building a team for sure, because when you have any questions, it's just like you can pass it along to the right person. You can get the answers. When you're by yourself, you're Googling it or you're spending hours of the night trying to figure out what you're going to do.
I don't remember if it was Henry Ford. There was some entrepreneur. It's always stuck in my head. Is it a book? I don't recall, but he talks about like basically like ring the spell on his desk and has access to answer any question, like whatever he needs. He's got a resource for it because he built his team around it so that he didn't have to have the answer always. He knew who to talk to get that answer
Yeah.
to get said thing done. So I think that's critical and important.
I think it's
All
yeah, I
right,
think it's huge.
absolutely. Any other parting wisdom or advice you would give to anybody, and then tell us best way to find you if you want to be connected to you, or just tell us how to go check out the sexy showers you guys.
I would say if you're planning on opening a business, there's never a right time. You just got to get out there and do it. Like I say, put one foot in front of the other one and just keep moving forward. Don't dwell on the past. But yeah, if you work hard enough and you have that drive, you can definitely be successful. I always live by this quote. I don't know who was the original person who said this quote. I know Tim Tebow said the quote, and I don't know if he was it, but I think it probably was before him. But hard work beats talent when talent doesn't work hard. So I
That's super true.
I live by that quote, but that's kind of my advice, is just got to go for it. Even if you don't always have to have a plan. Really quick little story is I could have went into business with a buddy of mine, but he wanted a business plan. And I'm like, I don't even know how to write a business plan. Like, this is how I got to do it. This is how my mind works, and this is how I got to do it. And that's how I ended up doing it. So I would say there's no right way or wrong way to starting a business. So
Awesome. And best way to find you if they wanted to connect?
Instagram, GCS_glass, or Brandon_Nicastro, Brandon Nicastro on LinkedIn, and Facebook, GCS Glass and Mirror on Facebook, or our website, www.gcs.glass.
Highly recommend that. I'll throw the link in the description. You guys also have like a page with gallery, lots of beautiful showers. You should check it out.
Yeah, sweet.
Awesome. Well, I appreciate your time today. I thank you for sharing everything that you have. I think you brought some amazing perspectives to the table. Hopefully, everything we talked about will be helpful to someone and help them in accomplishing their dreams in business. So I appreciate it, man.
Awesome. Thanks for having me on, dude.
Hey, this is Craig Bond, the owner of Elite Results Marketing. Did you like today's episode of Outwitting Statistics? We hope that you have enjoyed it and learned as much as we did. If you did, please take time to like and subscribe. If you feel like the information that was shared today would be valuable to another entrepreneur that you know, please take time to share it with them. If you're looking for a digital marketing partner that can help take your business to the next level, grow and increase your online presence, be sure to check out www.eliteresultsmarketing.com. We would be happy to hear from you. Until next time, we'll see you on the next episode.